Right, good evening. Welcome to Just the News. I'm Faye D'Souza. We have so much to give you today in terms of information, so we're going to get straight to it. The biggest story, in my mind at least, in my opinion, right now in the country is the fact that domestic LPG cylinders and the price of petrol and diesel are at an all-time high. This is a story that affects every single Indian in the country, which is why it's top of the list for me. The price of domestic LPG cylinders was hiked by 15 rupees today. That seems like a small number, but if you take a look at it totally, the price has gone up about 205 rupees since the 1st of January this year. This is now the fourth hike in 2 months. But like I said, since the 1st of January, it's gone up 205 rupees. But if you put this into perspective, in May last year, a cylinder would cost you 581 rupees. It now costs 899 rupees and 50 paise, so almost 900. So 581 to 900 in just 1 year or so. Not to mention the cost of transport. So once the cylinder comes to your home, it's another 50 or 60 rupees for transport, taking it up to 950 rupees. In Kolkata, the price is 926 before transport. Remember, by around September last year, the government had actually eased out all subsidy benefits on LPG gas. So most of urban India right now is paying 900 rupees for a cylinder. Remember, also in among the urban poor, they use the gas cylinder to boil water, to heat water, and to cook their food. So it tends to get used up much faster. And that means that they will have to spend a lot more money. It comes as a blow at a time when people might have lost their jobs and they're struggling with a weak economy. And offering no relief whatsoever are the prices of petrol and diesel, which are also at an all-time high, hiked by 30 paise and 35 paise respectively. Remember, we've been reporting hikes now for the last couple of weeks. In Mumbai, petrol will cost you 108 rupees and 96 paise. Diesel is at 99 rupees and 17 paise, for touching that 100 rupee mark. Just to break this down for you, according to Bharat Petroleum, this is a breakdown of what adds up to the price of petrol that you pay. The actual oil of 1 litre is 41 rupees and 60 paise, after which 3 rupees for the dealer. So now we're up to about 44 rupees. Everything else is tax. So 44 rupees to 108 rupees is all tax. There's the central government taxes, which is currently at 32 rupees or 90 paise. So that's almost 33 rupees. And the state taxes at 23 rupees. It's because the state tax varies that we pay different prices in different cities and states. Now, international oil prices are near a 7-year high following a decision by OPEC, which is oil producing countries. It's a consortium of oil producing countries, mostly in the Gulf. They've decided to only gradually increase the supply. So they're keeping the supply low in order to control the prices. And that has led to a 7-year high on the price of crude. Meanwhile, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said the prices of petroleum products in the country depend on the international rates. And both the centre and the states have to handle the fuel issue together as they impose taxes on oil products. She said India imports 99% of its petrol and diesel requirement. And the rate at which the global oil market affects us, she said the centre imposes a fixed amount of tax, not value-added tax that is brought in by the state governments. Now, the fact that the Indian price of fuel is affected by the international market is quite frankly a half-truth. That's only half the truth. Yes, it gets affected by the international market, but only half the price, because that 41 rupees is the thing that fluctuates because of the international prices. The remaining is tax, which the government should at this point on humanitarian grounds consider bringing down, because when the price of diesel is this high, touching 100 rupees, everything that you consume, from milk to vegetable to fruit, actually comes in on diesel trucks, which means the price of everything will go up. A lot of political updates coming in from Lakhimpur Kheri, which is a developing situation at this point. Remember, Priyanka Gandhi was held in detention and then formally arrested yesterday. She has been released right now from Sitapur. The detention order has been quashed, but the FIR is still there. Her brother and colleague in the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi, and several other politicians, including Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Baghel, Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Chani, flew to Lucknow, met her at Sitapur, and all collectively drove to Lakhimpur together after they were granted permission to do so by the Uttar Pradesh government. Now, however, they've been told that visitors can only move in groups of 5 because Section 144 is still active at Lakhimpur. In the meantime, no arrests have been made at all based on the FIR to nab the people who were driving the car that hit the farmers who were protesting. Now, other updates according to the Midday and other news sources, internet services were shut down in Lakhimpur Kheri and Sitapur on Wednesday, following reports that Congress leaders were on their way to meet Priyanka Gandhi and also the families of the victims. There's no official communication and confirmation of the shutdown. A senior official has said that it has been done as a precautionary measure. Uttar Pradesh authorities have asserted that the situation is peaceful and restrictions are being imposed to maintain law and order. In the meantime, the Minister of State for Home Affairs, Ajay Mishra, who's the junior minister in Mr. Amit Shah's cabinet and Mr. Amit Shah's ministry, his son, accused of the main murder of driving that car or being in that car, met Home Minister Amit Shah today, according to the Indian Express, which quoted sources. Now, opposition leaders and Bharatiya Kisan Union leader Rakesh Tikait have demanded Ajay Mishra's resignation and the arrest of his son. According to ANI, Ajay Mishra has given a statement saying, and I quote, "My son wasn't in the car. After the car was attacked, the driver was injured. The car lost balance and ran over a few people present there. I've expressed my sympathies towards those who have lost their lives. There should be an unbiased probe." End quote. He has also said, "The party high command has not summoned me. I will be reaching Delhi tonight or tomorrow. I have a few works lined up." He said that some miscreants were present among the farmers during the incident. There was a place where the incident happened. Some Khalistani elements were present there. Of course, the video that has now surfaced refutes these claims made by him. Now, a compensation of 50 lakh rupees has been announced by Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel to the families of the 4 farmers who were killed in that violence. The same has been announced for the one journalist who was also killed. He was among the 8 people who died. On Sunday, the Uttar Pradesh government had agreed to give 45 lakh rupees and a government job to each of the family members of the 4 deceased and 10 lakh rupees to those injured. The Aam Aadmi Party workers staged a protest against the Lakhimpur violence in Chandigarh in front of Raj Bhavan. Police used water cannons to disperse the demonstrators. Aam Aadmi Party leader Arvind Kejriwal hit out against the centre over its silence on the issue and demanded Ajay Mishra's resignation. One of the farmers who was killed in the Lakhimpur Kheri violence when the jeep ran over those farmers, Gurvinder Singh, was cremated this morning after his second autopsy was complete. Earlier, his family members refused to accept his body and cremate him because they claimed he was shot dead, and the post-mortem did not reflect that. The Editors Guild of India has demanded an independent inquiry into the death of Raman Kashyap, a journalist who was reporting on the farmers' protest when he was killed. The Editors Guild in its statement noted that there are conflicting versions of the causes of his death that have now emerged, including a version that claimed that he died of bullet wounds. Initially, it was claimed that Kashyap was a BJP worker, and the people from the BJP had claimed that he was a BJP worker. It turned out now that he is a freelance journalist. His family have confirmed on camera to News Laundry that the wounds on his body were being run over from a car and not being beaten by lathis. In other news, prominent Kashmiri Pandit Makhanlal Bindru's last rites were performed in Srinagar after he was killed by terrorists. Bindru's daughter, Shraddha, questioned the logic behind her father being targeted and asked how killing a man who had served Kashmir his entire life would further the terrorist cause. She also said the gunman may have killed her father's body, but his spirit lives on through his family. Former J&K Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah visited the family and offered condolences. Now, according to the Jammu and Kashmir police, 3 people, a chemist, a street vendor and a cab driver, were shot dead by terrorists in separate incidents within the course of 1 hour on Tuesday. The police said that 70-year-old Makhanlal Bindru, a prominent businessman and the owner of the Bindru pharmacy in Srinagar, was shot point blank inside his pharmacy at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. He was one of the few Kashmiri Pandits who did not migrate out of the state at the onset of militancy back in 1990. The Jammu and Kashmir police have registered cases regarding these terror crime incidents, and respective areas are being cordoned off and searched. The Delhi High Court on Wednesday began a hearing for a plea to include the PM CARES Fund under the category of state under Article 12 of the Constitution. Now, Article 12 basically defines that in a law, anything that says state means the Government of India, the Parliament of India, or the state governments, the legislature. Appearing for the petitioner, senior advocate Shyam Diwan argued that the PM CARES Fund satisfies various criteria to be viewed as part of state. Diwan also said it should be viewed as state because the state emblem is being used. It's a gov.in website to promote the fund and also has the Prime Minister's office's official address as the address for the fund. He went on to say that on March 29th, 2020, the Vice President of India issued a statement urging contributions from Rajya Sabha members to be made into the PM CARES Fund, which he referred to as a fund set up by the Government of India. Similar appeals were issued by the Ministries of Labour, Defence, Human Resources and the Cabinet Secretaries, all of which refer to the fund as being set up by the government. So what happens next? Basically, the court has to make its decision. If the court concludes that the PM CARES Fund is not state, then the petitioner's alternative prayer is that it should not be allowed then to use Government of India in various aspects. It shouldn't be allowed the state emblem, the gov.in tag, or the Prime Minister's official address. Remember, the trustees of this fund are the senior most ministers in the Union Cabinet, Ministers of Defence and Finance. If the court does decide that the PM CARES Fund is in fact part of the government, it will then become subject to RTI rules and laws, which means it will have to make public all of its contributions and all of its spending. A quick look at the COVID numbers. Yes, we're still looking at the COVID numbers. India reported 18,833 new cases, down from 20,000, which is a good thing. Kerala reported 12,297 new cases in the last 24 hours. The Indian Council for Medical Research has advised against what it calls revenge travel and warned of a rise in social gatherings by tourists and mass congregations because of religious festivals and political events. They said that this may set off a third wave in India. Revenge travel is basically the desire to go on a vacation because you're no longer in lockdown for no particular reason, being strongly advised against. Lucknow Police has imposed restrictions of Section 144 of the CRPC until the 8th of November, so a whole month, to maintain what it calls law and order and to ensure adherence to COVID rules during upcoming festivals, entrance examinations, and the farmers' protests. Restaurants, gyms, sports stadiums, and theatres in Lucknow will be open at 50% capacity provided they are not in containment zones. Let's look at news now coming in from across the world. Johnson & Johnson has sought the approval of the US FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, for emergency use authorization for its booster shot for everyone above the age of 18. Moderna has filed a similar application. The FDA has already given approval for a booster shot for Pfizer for everyone above the age of 65 and those people who are regularly exposed to the virus, with the aim to tackle the highly transmissible Delta variants and to prevent the emergence of other variants. Joe Biden administration had announced a push for boosters in August. In a terrible state of affairs, a report that has come out from an independent commission that investigated allegations of systematic pedophilia in the Catholic Church released its report on Tuesday. The revelations are shocking. The report estimates, and this is only in France as a country, the report estimates that since 1950, as many as 3,000 priests and church workers abused 200,000 children or 2 lakh children in France. Most of the victims were boys in the ages of 10 to 13. The report said, and I quote, "Faced with this scourge for a very long time, the Catholic Church's immediate reaction was to protect itself as an institution and has shown complete and even cruel indifference to those who have suffered abuse," end quote. In the meantime, Pope Francis has condemned the scale of the child sexual abuse in the Church of France and has acknowledged the failures in putting the needs of victims first. He has said in a statement, and I quote, "There is unfortunately a considerable number. I would like to express to the victims my sadness and pain for the trauma they have suffered. It is also my shame, my shame, for the incapacity of the Church for too long to put them at the center of its concerns." He has also called on bishops and religious superiors to take all actions necessary so similar dramas are not repeated. I don't normally have personal statements put out about stories, but the court has failed repeatedly to take action Also, one of the serious problems within the Catholic Church is the fact that it is run almost entirely by men who tend to protect each other. A look now at news coming in from the world of sports. The Indian hockey team has officially pulled out of the 2022 Commonwealth Games scheduled to be held in Birmingham because of the COVID situation in the UK and the mandatory 10-day quarantine rule for Indians, among others. Remember, UK has a new set of rules for quarantine requiring people from India, Africa, and South American countries to undergo 10 days of quarantine even if they're fully vaccinated. India has a similar rule now for those coming out of the UK. Now, this comes after England withdrew from the Junior Men's World Cup in Bhubaneswar, citing similar reasons. Hockey India said that there is only a 32-day window available between the Birmingham Games and the Hangzhou Asian Games, and they would prioritize the Asian Games because it does have a qualification. It's a qualification event for the Paris Olympics. All right, one piece of positive news, sort of cleanse all the stress of the news that we read out to you. The Andhra Pradesh government has issued or launched a scheme called Swachha, which will provide 10 sanitary napkins to every girl student. That's 10 lakh girl students between the classes 7 and 12 in all government schools and colleges. So every year, a total of 120 sanitary napkins will be allotted to every girl student before the summer vacation, and the student will be given their quota before they leave school. The scheme aims to ensure menstrual hygiene and tackle the stigma around menstruation. According to a report by the United Nations Water Supply and Sanitation Council, approximately 23% of the girls in India drop out of school because they don't have access to menstrual products. Hopefully, this will solve that problem, and especially in Andhra Pradesh, it seems like a great idea. If girls have access to sanitary pads, they will be more comfortable going to school and the dropout rate will come down. That brings us to the end of the bulletin. Thank you so much for listening. Do give us your feedback on anything that you would like us to do. Also pointing out to you that I'm going to take a 2-day break, but Amita will be here giving you the news tomorrow and the day after that. Stay safe, stay at home. Thank you for watching.